Hi guys, if you haven't seen my previous videos, well, if you weren't family and haven't seen my previous videos, let me just catch you up quickly. We made these grain spawn bottles. If you can have a look at these lids, we made two holes in it, one slightly bigger hole and one tiny hole for an injection port. We put some gasket sealer over the one tiny hole, and in some cases we added some pillow stuffing to the other hole, and other cases we have added this micropore tape just for gas exchange on our lids. We then boiled our rye grain. We soaked it first for 24 hours, then we boiled it for 15 minutes, and then we put it into these peanut butter jars. We then covered these lids once they're looking like something like that, covered them with tin foil, and we popped them into the pressure cooker for a good long time. They say 90 minutes at 15 psi. Mine doesn't do psi, so I just chucked it in there for a long time. As you can see, this has just come out of the pressure cooker. It's still hot. And we're going to be separating out this turkey tail grain spawn, which we inoculated shortly after it had cooled down the previous time, and we are now going to split that out into different containers and just show you what we have planned there. Awesome. Okay, so this is what we have planned for today. We've got our grain spawn. We're going to break it up and separate it out. I'm going to chuck a few grains into each one of these bottles, hopefully to create some liquid culture. Okay, that's a bad bottle example. In here is a honey and water liquid, so like a broth to grow mycelium in. We pressure sterilized those for a good long period of time, and they have now since cooled. We're going to be separating out some of this grain spawn to go into some of those. This is just a random bottle of a mixture of vermiculite, bran, and sawdust, just as a test example of what I don't know what I was planning there anyway. So please ignore some of this scribbles on the top. These are margarine containers. I'm going to fill them with sawdust and bran. They have got a series of holes all the way around. I'm not sure if you can see them. They've holes, and I've put micropore tape over each of the holes. This particular one, I've added micropore tape, but I'm not going to microwave it once I've filled it with the substrate. This one I'm going to microwave it, so this is with micropore tape. I'm not going to with microwaving, and this particular one I am not going to add micropore tape, but I am going to microwave it just for a few minutes in the microwave, probably around about 4 minutes. I'll check on it and see, how hot I can get without actually melting the margarine containers. Just as a test, I was told that you can grow turkey tail out of a bucket. I've got buckets. I don't want to use them yet until I'm sure that this will work, as turkey tail takes a long time to fruit. So that's the plan here, to use these as buckets in the meantime. And then I've also got the normal standard breathable bags, grow bags, which I'm going to fill, sterilize, and do the normal growing option from there. So yeah, we'll fill these with the substrate that we've pre-made, and we'll sterilize it in the pressure cooker, and then once that's cooled down, we will add our grain spawn to that. So that leaves me with the last question: what is my substrate? Which is oak sawdust and wheat bran mixture. They say 1 to 20% bran mixture to your sawdust. I added about a cup and a quarter to my, I would say, 15-liter bucket, so that's definitely not 20%. But I did pour boiling water over my over the dry ingredients last night, soaked it in a bucket, and that's what I'm going to be adding to these containers today. Let's get started. Okay, just a quick note before I continue. I sound a little muffled now because I am wearing a face mask. I've also put gloves on and cleaned my hands and the counters and the surfaces and everything with alcohol. This is pasteurized substrate. Now I'm going to still sterilize them in certain circumstances. There is a circumstance which I'm not going to sterilize. I don't want any bacteria from my mouth, nose, or from under my nails, anything like that, getting into my substrate to grow any extra bacteria that is unwanted at this stage. So I'm just making sure that everything is clean before I continue. Okay, so 2 things I noticed while doing this. I filled each of my containers with the top layer of substrate that was in the bucket, and I realized that there was a lot of water sitting at the bottom of the bucket. So I had to put in a strainer just to strain off that extra water. You can see some of that extra water at the bottom there. I also took my grow bags and I put them in my pot that I'm going to sterilize them in. Just to see, what's the maximum size I can get to, even with a bit of pressure, and still leave some room for water and air exchange, etc. And that's quite a decent size bag, so I'm still getting a decent, I'll weigh it and tell you how much that weighs, decent size bag, and go from there. So good. Okay, so the hardest part of the packing process was definitely the cleanup. Sawdust is like glitter. I'm going to be finding sawdust everywhere in my kitchen for, I assume, the next 6 months from that little bit that I did. So definitely need to do that outside next time or find a cleaner way to do that. Okay, next steps. Okay, so these are my grow bags. I've added some string around them for a few reasons. Okay, so number one, these little flappy things keep flapping everywhere. Also want to try and put as much pressure on the substrate as possible so that it's not too big for my pressure cooker. And also, I heard that if you take your grow bags out of your pressure cooker while they're still hot, because they're hot, they suck in the air from the outside while they're waiting to cool. So I want to try and limit that by just keeping it as closed as possible, especially because my pressure cooker is something I use to cook dinner in and things like that. And I noticed from the bucket that it was still warm in the center, even though I had left it all night to cool down. So I don't want to be waiting 24 hours and 24 hours for each of these to cool down in my pressure cooker that I use to cook food in. So that is why I've added the extra string. It's actually wool, and I've just made a bow knot on top, and hopefully that will be sufficient if I have to take it out of the pressure cooker. Okay, I don't know if I mentioned this morning, but I did do some grain spawn last night. So I did create some grain. I boiled some grain last night to make grain spawn with. They are still cooling down. Hopefully, when we're ready to actually add some more of this mycelium collinated grain spawn here into some of these jars just to continue the process. So that is also something that I plan to do with this jar. It's a lot that I plan to do with this jar. I'm not sure how, it's going to be very slow colonization just because I'm not using the entire jar per bag, so that you've got less space between each grain to colonize this bag. So I'll probably use about a third for this bag, a third for the next bag, 1 or 2 grains in each of these bottles, and then the last third to put into these grain bottles. If you didn't see my last video, this bottle of grain was inoculated with turkey tail. It was done with mycelium in a syringe, so it was liquid culture syringe into the bottle. It has taken since the 27th of October or 28th of October when I inoculated it till now, which is about the 12th of November. So about 15 days to fully colonize. The other jars are not going as well as this. They are still slow, but still looking good, still flowing, and hopefully we'll be doing another mushroom of all of these soon. That beeping noise you heard was my substrate in the microwave in the margarine containers. These containers are feeling a little soft now and very, very hot. So I think that is an acceptable amount of time, 4 minutes for 2 of the containers. Hopefully it works. It's just a test, but yeah, we'll see what happens. We've got the first substrate in the pressure cooker, and these ones obviously going to have to cool down. These jars will still have to cool down, so I'll see you when that's done. Cheers for now.